Well, my audio went out there, so I hope everything went great. I apologize, but we've got Ryan here joining us for this episode of the Walk On Red Shirts. I appreciate you, Ryan, from Inside the Pylon, joining us today.
Ryan, can you pronounce your last name for us, please?
It is Satkoviak. It is the weird Eastern European W pronounced as a V, and it confuses everyone.
And my last name's Cockrell, and it does not confuse everyone, and I wish it did. So we're in the same boat, buddy. And then Jake's in the Western European, so he's got Diefenthaler. So we're all European over here.
Yeah, we all are European descent. Ryan, really appreciate you joining us here today. We are doing a what if college football draft today for the biggest what ifs in college football history. And while I was thinking about this, there was one recently that I know Will is such a big fan of Lane Kiffin that got me thinking, what if Lane Kiffin had actually stayed at Ole Miss for the playoff? I mean, here, Ryan, do you think that Ole Miss might have it came down to the final play against Miami? Do you think that was a Pete Golding, like, hey, we pushed it up, or hey, was it like this team was just that good? Maybe with Lane Kiffin, they go a little further.
I think there's some logic in that for sure. I'm also a certified Miami hater, so any chance I have to take a dig at the Hurricanes, I will absolutely do it.
Shaking hands with you, Ryan. Yeah, I think if Lane Kiffin coaches, they lose to Tulane. Respectfully, I say that with all due respect.
After they had already beat Tulane once that year.
Hey, it's hard to beat a team twice.
I actually think that
he's not wrong. He's not wrong.
I think Lane Kiffin might overthink that and lose to Georgia. I mean, that was obviously a very tight game.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a little bit of the spark of like the rallying cry, like, hey, our coach is gone. Like, hey, we're all here. We're going to rally around our guy. I think that might have a little bit of an effect to help motivate them get a little bit further.
Well, you also have to realize I have a new hate for Ole Miss that I've never had before. I already didn't like Ole Miss because of Lane Kiffin, and then Pete Golding just decides to do some things, and now I have there's a big rivalry with the upstate of South Carolina and whatever part of Mississippi Oxford's in.
Hey, when Dabo tampers and steals a player, how are we gonna feel?
It won't happen. Can't happen. Won't happen. Dude won't even use the transfer portal correctly. So why you think he's gonna start tampering?
That's true. We're about 3 steps away from that. We got to get A, B, and C first before we get to D here.
Yeah.
You can't even tamper because you don't get the players.
Yeah. You know what? You're about to make me log out of this podcast before it starts. I'm already mad.
Okay. So this is what we're going to do today. So we're going to do the biggest what ifs in college football history. And we're talking what would have changed college football for, I want to say, biggest impact. So, I mean, we don't have to go back to 1950s. We're not talking about if Iowa had finally started using the forward pass in 1975. Like, we don't have to talk that far back. But what would have had the biggest impacts on college football? It can be an injury. It can be a play. It can be a singular game. It could be a movement. It could be some sort of coaching movement. What are the biggest changes of what ifs in college football history? And before we started, I put it in a ChatGPT, had it come up with a draft order. I don't know if the ChatGPT just knew Ryan was a guest and felt like giving Ryan the number 1 overall pick and giving Will the 3rd overall pick. Now it is a snake draft, Will, so you get to go back to back. You get to go back to back. So I don't know if that's a good or bad. You go 1, but then you go again to 6, Ryan. So I mean, the draft floor is yours. If I have the ESPN draft sound, I would play it, but I don't.
This is too much pressure. I don't like this because we talked before show, and I got 11 here, and I feel like a good solid half of these are number 1 pick worthy.
I also just realized, I'm sorry, Ryan, I did the wrong sound.
Yeah, you did the highlight sound, not the draft noise.
I went right along with you because that just it stirred something up in my brain there. I'm like, that's definitely right, and you are absolutely correct. We got the Sports Center sound. That works for me. That works for me. I'm gonna go to lead this off. What if Jordan Travis does not break his leg in 2023?
Oh, you're gonna like that pick, Ryan. That's a good pick. That's a good pick. That was on my draft board. I mean, you got to think about that one for sure. I mean, he's holding his jersey up.
If he doesn't get injured, they're in the college football playoff. Alabama doesn't go to the college football playoff. Does Nick Saban then retire? There's no way Nick Saban retires after not going to a college football playoff.
Well,
does Florida State give Michigan a fight?
I would pivot that and say that the biggest impact was, I think that catapulted us into the 12-team playoff.
I agree.
I think that expedited the 12-team playoff, because what happened to Florida State was such a big travesty that they're like, we can't let this happen again. This has caused so much bad publicity on our playoff format. We already want the 12-team playoff. Let's do it now. And I think it's caused this chaos that's occurred inside the NCAA, because so many people lost so much trust with what the NCAA was, because the NCAA allowed the TV deals to make this decision, essentially.
Yeah, and you look at this whole selection process and how there's just no consistency or logic or criteria in the criteria that they do use, how they apply it. No one understands. Like this last year, it was the head-to-head battle, and the head-to-head didn't matter until the last weekend of the year when neither Notre Dame or Miami played, but now there's no team in between them. So all of a sudden now it matters, and people are like, well, why does this make sense now when it didn't make sense a week ago? But that was the original talking point, right? Like, Florida State won the ACC title. It did not look great. I think anyone with a brain watching how they played with Brock Glenn at quarterback is sitting there and saying, there is no way this team is beating anyone in the playoff.
Yeah. So, like, I can't blame them, because at that point they were not one of the best teams, but they had done so much to get there. It sucks. Like the sum of the team got punished for the one single piece.
For one player. One player.
Should have given him the Heisman. Travis if he was that important, he should have won the Heisman.
That's also a fair point. That's a fair point. Jordan Travis does get injured. I mean, not only are they in the playoff, I mean, but they're a legitimate threat in the playoff. That is a good team.
I disagree.
I mean, you can't take that Georgia game at the end of the year and isolate that, because the amount of opt-outs.
I could take the Clemson game in the middle of the year, in which it took them overtime, and we should have beat them because we missed a 27-yard field goal.
Indiana beat Iowa by 5 points this past year. You can't take a game in the middle of the season when now all of a sudden you get 3 or 4 weeks to prepare.
This is America, Jake.
Very different. The playoffs are so very different.
I don't know if you watch hockey. This is America, okay? And I can do what I want.
Penn State was this close to beating Indiana this past year as well, and Penn State was not a good football team.
They were also this close to beating Oregon. So, like, I hear you. I don't think Florida State was the juggernaut that they thought they were that year.
But I think they could have given Michigan a better fight than Alabama, and Alabama went to overtime with them. Michigan, while they were a really good team, there were some flaws with that team, and I think Florida State could have definitely held their own against Michigan.
I thought I misspelled my name for a second. Yeah. Sorry, I saw a squirrel. That's a great pick. That's a great pick, Ryan. Great pick.
And what, too, and I'm not saying that it would have happened, but what if Florida State ends up being Michigan? Does Jim Harbaugh go to the NFL then? And if he doesn't go to the NFL, what does the NCAA do to the Michigan program?
Connor Stallion still exists.
That's true.
What if he beats Michigan, but then Washington then beats Florida State? And now Kalen DeBoer wins the national championship at Washington.
Yeah, he never leaves Washington.
There's some wrinkles in there for sure.
Is Florida State still dog water in 2025, in 2024?
That's a good one. So with my first pick, I'm going to take Nick Saban leaving the Dolphins, where he said that he will not be the head coach at Alabama, and then turns around a week later and is the head coach at the University of Alabama.
Jake, I'm proud of you.
If Nick Saban does not take that Alabama job, I mean, there was talks of Rich Rodriguez being the next head coach. I mean,
I'm pretty sure it was going to be Rich Rodriguez. I don't think it was talks. I think it was going to be. And then he came in at the 11th hour. I'm pretty sure Rich Rodriguez had agreed to the deal.
I don't know if Rich Rodriguez had quite agreed to it. But that Nick Saban leaving Alabama, or leaving for Alabama, was critical, because at the time, Alabama was not the juggernaut that we know them for. Yes, Alabama had history, tons of national championships, but the previous decade or so had been a very down period for them.
Very average team, yeah.
So Nick Saban does not leave to go to Alabama. They either get Rich Rod or they get some other middle tier college football head coach. I mean, they do not even come close to the destiny and dynasty that they had over the next 15 years.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you got to think how many quarterbacks that would have never even considered Tuscaloosa, Alabama, ended up going to Alabama. You think of Tua Tagovailoa, Bryce Young; those guys don't even sniff the state of Alabama. Had Nick Saban not come there, I mean, you can even go. I mean, and before those guys were going to Alabama. Those guys like that. Those are Alabama quarterbacks for the longest time. But Derrick Henry's a Georgia guy. Does he maybe? Oh, let me not give y'all some more what ifs. But like that. He changed the entire landscape of college football because of his just sheer and utter dominance of the sport for the longest time. So, yeah, I like that pick.
All right, well, you got back-to-backs here. How are we feeling?
I'm feeling great. I'm feeling really good. My number one, so we're going to go back to Alabama. What if Tim Tebow decides to go to Alabama?
I had that one on my list. And I had a feeling someone would take that.
So – and the way this affects college football the most is the Urban Meyer legacy. Because Urban Meyer, I don't think he has. I mean, they won with Chris Leak. Yes.
They probably still win that national championship.
Correct.
Sure.
Yeah, Tim Tebow didn't play that much of a role that year. However, the run that they end up going on because of Tebow, those years he had, the Heisman Trophy season, I don't think Urban Meyer's remembered the same way. Because they were able to have that sustained success. I don't know who would have been the quarterback after him. I mean, I have another what if that could play into that. But if Tim Tebow goes to Alabama, I think that catapults Alabama and Nick Saban's legacy even faster than it already went. So because that was 2008 when 2008. So
they won in 06 and 08, and he won the Heisman in 07.
Correct. And Saban came to Alabama in 07, correct?
Correct.
So Nick Saban's Hall of Fame run would have started his first year. They would have never lost to Louisiana Monroe, and the rest is history. Nick Saban never has a bad year at Alabama, and Florida is Florida, but like the SEC, maybe it's not as dominant as it was. Maybe Urban Meyer doesn't. Obviously, Urban Meyer won't do what he would have done. It changes the entire essence of the SEC East. Maybe the SEC East falls apart. Maybe South Carolina ends up winning a conference championship because they don't have to go through Florida and they don't have to go through Georgia. Maybe Mark Richt still has a job. So like, there's all these different things that were affected because Tim Tebow ends up coming back to Florida. Are picking Florida. My second one. This is tough. I'm between two things, and I'm going to
3 more picks after this. So
I'm going to stay in the SEC. What if Kirby Smart signed the dotted line to be the head coach at South Carolina? Because it was the 11th hour that Georgia comes in and swoops and gives him an offer he cannot refuse. So Mark Richt leaves. Kirby Smart is about to sign with South Carolina to be their next head coach. Instead, the Steve Spurrier era is then replaced by Will Muschamp, and South Carolina has not been the same since. And Georgia goes on a freaking run. He takes he leaves off right where Mark Richt was, and that's 10-win seasons competing for the SEC East every single year, and now Georgia is what it is. Does South Carolina become that? Do they usurp Clemson as fast as possible? Or is it the other way around, and Georgia and South Carolina stay mediocre because Kirby Smart's not able to take South Carolina to the next level? So I think that changed the entire essence of the SEC. And you talk about like when Nick Saban leaves, is the SEC still looked at the same way if Kirby Smart's not at Georgia? I don't know, because Georgia's been the only thing that's kept them, in playoff contention these past couple of years. The last national championship that was won by the SEC was Kirby Smart and that Georgia team. So I think that would have changed so much of the SEC landscape, specifically that SEC East.
I feel like there's so much revisionist history around Georgia with Kirby Smart and everyone. Like, you see these lists where people are like best jobs in college football, and now it feels like Georgia is the top of that list. Yeah, but Kirby Smart, and I get like the inherent advantages that Georgia has with the growing Atlanta metro area, and Georgia Tech's up and coming too. So it's not fair to say that they don't have Power 5 competition in state for players, but it's Georgia Tech. Let's be realistic about that. But they weren't really looked that way under Mark Richt. They were looked at as a solid SEC program, but not this world beater Death Star that
kind of like
was looked
Tennessee. Like, honestly, 10 years ago, you probably would have had them behind LSU because LSU at least had a national championship within the last decade before that.
I mean, even like you look at like early 2010s. I mean, I know Florida fell off after Urban Meyer left, but like they were below Florida too.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was Florida, Tennessee, Georgia.
And every Auburn was right up there as well. Auburn, Gus.
I'm just talking about the East. I'm just talking about the East.
Okay, yeah.
I like that one. That's a good one.
So my next one, I'm kind of leaning into my first pick as well, going back to 2007 as well. What if West Virginia beats Pitt? I think that is possibly one of the biggest what ifs in college football history. Mm-hmm. What if West Virginia beats Pitt and goes on to play for the national championship? A, you don't have LSU playing for a national championship. It is Ohio State versus West Virginia. For the sake of arguments, West Virginia wins the game. They might not. But West Virginia was dynamic, though. They had, Pat.
What year was that?
2007. It was the final week of the year. They lost 13-9. Pat McAfee multiple kicks. So if they go to play for the national championship, Rich Rod does not go to Michigan. Mm-hmm. That West Virginia team sticks together. West Virginia, if they win a national championship, I mean, that catapults them into a completely different stratosphere as a program. You want to talk about funding and resources and support around the program. I mean, that is putting them in a totally different element. I also have to wonder, what does the Big East then look like? What does the future look like? Does somebody come calling for West Virginia earlier because now all of a sudden they're a national championship program? Also, what happens to Michigan? Who does Michigan end up hiring? Because they had just fired Les Miles instead of Rich Rod going there. Also Alabama, do they make a call a little bit sooner? Do they not wait for Saban? Because, hey, Rich Rod's off the market. We can't get to him. Maybe Saban still goes there. But the Michigan landscape, honestly, it might actually turn out better for Michigan because Rich Rod was such a terrible hire at West Virginia. Mm-hmm. And then what does West Virginia do over the next 3 to 5 years now that they have an established national championship? They probably don't have quite the fall off they did for a little bit, but I mean, they were even still exciting the next, handful of years under Bill Stewart and whatnot when they had Geno Smith come in. You had Noah Devine. They had guys still coming, and Rich Rod would have been fantastic with there. Instead, he left for 15 years and came back.
Who played the national championship that year? Was that Alabama, LSU?
It was Ohio State and LSU.
Ohio State, LSU. Yeah. So that might have been Ohio State, West Virginia.
It would have been Ohio State, West Virginia because LSU had two losses.
Yeah, they lost to Arkansas and Kentucky, I believe. I think that was when Kentucky beat them in overtime. Charles Woodson? No, who was there? Carlos Woodson? Andre Woodson, yeah.
All right, Ryan, back to you. 2 picks.
I feel like I can make 3 different what-if scenarios around the 2012 national title game scenario. The one that I'm going to go with here, shout out to Clinton for the inspiration on this one. What if Ohio State is not bowl ineligible in 2012 and at 12-0 qualifies for the national title?
That's a good. I didn't even think about that one.
So
Jim Tressel would not be the lieutenant governor of Ohio right now.
That was Urban. That was Urban's first
year. That was Urban. You're right.
Yeah. That was Urban's first year. Jim Tressel had them bowl. They were not eligible for a bowl because of that.
Because of Tattoo Gate.
Yeah,
that's right. Those scumbags.
How far we've come in college football. God forbid those evil doers selling their tattoos or selling their memorabilia to get tattoos.
They put ink on their body, Ryan. They put ink on their body.
How could you? I thought this was America. I do think the disclaimer with this is it's a lot easier to go 12-0 when you have nothing on the line, and if Ohio State is playing for a potential national title berth down the line, there's no saying that they do end up going 12-0.
I argue with you, Ryan, because how do you stay motivated?
That's fair. That's a good point. That's a good point.
So where there's no pressure, there's also like no motivation. So like, 12-0 is 12-0 in my opinion.
Yeah, that's fair. But anyway, so then your national title game in 2012 is Notre Dame versus Ohio State, and I don't remember how long ago it was, but I saw some weird discourse around this because someone mentioned this. They're like, "Oh, Ohio State would have won the national title that year," and I saw
there's no guarantee. That Ohio State team was not any sort of
and that was the point I saw. Is an Ohio State beat writer was like, "I don't think you guys realize how not good that Ohio State team actually was, and there's no guarantee they would have beaten that Notre Dame team." But also,
Was that Jimmy Clausen?
No, that was
Everett Golson.
Everett Golson.
Everett Golson, yeah.
With Tommy Reese coming in every third series as a relief pitcher because Everett Golson was not a good thrower of the football that year. But there's like the discourse around that. I mean, we know about that Notre Dame team, right? We've seen the Manti Te'o face in the tunnel leading up to the game, the shell shocked. And there was a story that one of the Notre Dame beat writers likes to tell is talking with Chuck Martin after that season, who was the offensive coordinator that year, now the head coach at Miami of Ohio. He likes to say that they were closer to 3-9 that year than being 13-0 because they had no chance to beat Alabama. But that was a Notre Dame team that got to 12-0 by smoke and mirrors. That was not a dynamic offense. It was a very good defense.
Yeah.
But aside from beating Oklahoma that year, and I think they beat Miami pretty good, but that was not a good Miami team. There was not a lot of meat on the bone on that Notre Dame schedule. That just would have been a fascinating game because you think like it goes one way if Ohio State wins that game. Well, Urban Meyer wins a national title in his first season and you kickstart a program, then eventually he wins another national title. But if you get 2 and 3 years to start that era,
and
do they get another one in one of these years that they had a brain fart against a really bad team? Do they still have those brain farts?
Urban has heart issues earlier and retires earlier to go to the NFL.
There we go.
That 2012 Ohio State team, though, I just pulled up the game log. I mean, the fact that they had multiple games where they passed for less than 50% completion, and they had a game against Wisconsin where they only threw for 97 yards. Like, look, I love Braxton Miller. That's one of the most electric players in college football history. But that dude throwing the ball was not the best. It was very clear that, like, hey, you are just an incredible athlete who can happen to throw the ball pretty well, but not great. But with your legs, like, you're probably better than most running backs and wide receivers.
Mm-hmm. But then the Notre Dame side, if they win that game, they win the national title that year. Does Brian Kelly then just decide that he's going to the Eagles after the season? And what happens to Notre Dame? Does he stay at Notre Dame? Does he turn Notre Dame into a dynasty? Probably not, because he didn't like to recruit, but that's neither here nor there.
Winning a national championship, though, makes it a lot easier to recruit, though.
This is true.
For both sides.
They did have their best recruiting class in the Brian Kelly era coming off of that national title game. That was the Jalen Smith class before his knee turned into spaghetti.
Yeah, that's not funny, but it's funny.
That's an interesting one for me.
I like that one.
That's a good one. What's your next one?
Next one. What if Cam Newton didn't steal that laptop?
I feel like we all had that one.
That was coming.
I feel like we all had that one.
Probably
he didn't
doesn't
do
leave, innocent. He probably doesn't leave Florida. He probably doesn't go to Auburn. Auburn probably doesn't win a national title. Does Urban Meyer leave Florida when he leaves Florida?
Is Ryan allowed to make this pick since in this hypothetical world, Tebow went to Alabama, so Cam Newton wouldn't have left anyway because he probably wouldn't have stole the laptops because he would have been studying for a game film and he would have been a starter.
That is a good point.
It's an interesting
I'm teasing.
Point to make.
I can't believe that you further built off of that web. That is incredible. That's like those trade trees where it's like you get like draft picks that are like 7 years down the line, and it's like, we traded so and so in his prime in 2015, and the trade tree went into 2023.
That's the NBA. That's the NBA trade stuff that I can't keep up with. I'm like, we got this pick back in 2013. How'd you do that?
I think that dramatically alters the 2010s for two different SEC programs if Cam Newton stays at Florida. Sorry,
he wanted to be a good student. I mean, whatever.
He just wanted Microsoft Word and didn't have it on his regular laptop. He needed to write a paper.
I think that one is. I think a lot of people think about this because everybody views Cam Newton so incredible for his singular season he played at the FBS level, and he's viewed as arguably one of the best college football players of all time because that Auburn team was horrific. They were terrible.
Not good.
They're terrible.
Somebody named his best receiver.
Well, no, I think there is one NFL start from his starting offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was
offensive lineman.
Name one of his receivers.
I can't. I have no idea.
Right. So could you imagine him at Florida? It's unbelievable. And Auburn, what would Auburn be at this point? What would Gus Malzahn be at this point?
Well, that was Gene Chizik.
Good. They're the same person in my brain. They are the same person in my brain.
They are very different people.
Who would Who would Gene Chizik be at this point?
Gene Chizik got fired like 2 years later anyways. He was so bad that Cam Newton held him up. He would have got fired a year earlier, basically, because they were terrible.
Is he still on TV now?
Gene Chizik, I thought I last saw was a defensive coordinator somewhere.
Does Nick Fairley go in the first round if Cam Newton's not there?
That's a good question. Gene Chizik was last a defensive coordinator for North Carolina in 2023.
And
that is shockingly. Shockingly. All right. My next one. I got some options I can go here.
Was that two?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's Cam Newton and the OSU 2012.
Oh, yeah.
You took Jordan Travis. Okay. I'm going to go with what if Nick Saban doesn't bench Jalen Hurts?
Oh, I like that one.
Ooh.
What if Nick Saban does not bench Jalen Hurts in the national championship game because they couldn't move the ball with Jalen Hurts? They bring Tua in, and all of a sudden the script is flipped. Alabama can move the ball. They go to overtime. Tua obviously throws the game-winning touchdown pass. Jalen Hurts then obviously, sticks around 1 year, then transfers to Oklahoma, has a fantastic season, propels himself into a Heisman Trophy finalist, goes to the Eagles, becomes this superstar quarterback. And honestly, at this point in the NFL, he's a better quarterback than Tua. But Tua in college was a significantly better passer than Jalen Hurts was. What does that look like? Because Georgia probably wins that national championship game, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
I don't think it does much to Alabama because Alabama is still Alabama. I think it does more for Georgia because it felt like they were so close. And then it took them a couple more years to get back up there. You saw Justin Fields transfer. They went through a rotation of quarterbacks. At one point, they had like 3 terrible guys. One of them was Stetson Bennett, who before he got good, they were just like rotating quarterbacks at one point. They were all terrible. They bring in JT Daniels because they actually thought JT Daniels would be better than Stetson Bennett. And he started the season, and then Stetson Bennett ended up being better than JT Daniels after everybody thought. I just think from Georgia's perspective, it speeds up their process. It speeds up their process to becoming what they are now compared to what they were back in 2018, 2017 national championship. I also wonder, I think Tua probably takes over that next year anyways. It felt like the whole time it's like it was only a matter of time before Tua took over. But I think maybe we look at it still a little bit differently.
I had that one on my list. That was a good one.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And Kirby's got 3.
Yeah, and then Kirby has 3, and now you're talking about he's already considered, one of the best coaches of all time, but now he's like cementing his legacy with 3.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Will.
All right, so 2008, Clemson loses to Wake Forest. Tommy Bowden's fired. Tommy Bowden says to Dabo, "Come with me to Arkansas," and Dabo says, "No." What if Dabo went with Tommy Bowden to Arkansas?
Ooh.
I didn't know Tommy Bowden went to Arkansas.
Yep. Think about this. Dabo goes to Arkansas. They don't get CJ Spiller. So CJ Spiller probably goes to Florida. There's Florida with your Cam Newton. Taj Boyd doesn't go to Clemson. He goes to either Tennessee or South Carolina or Florida. And who knows what happens there. And then you don't get Deshaun. Deshaun probably ends up going to Georgia to go play for whoever the coach is at that point.
But yeah.
Well, it depends on this hypothetical situation we're in. This could be anybody at this point. It's probably Rich Rodriguez. And Brian Kelly's there right now.
Yeah.
But Clemson doesn't become what it is. It doesn't become a brand. I don't end up going there because obviously I was a national championship walk-on. That was the caliber I brought to the table. But yeah, Clemson doesn't become the brand it is. South Carolina football as a whole doesn't become what it is, and we're just 2 teams in the state of South Carolina going 7-5, 8-4 every single year. Changes everything. Alabama gets 2 more national championships because of that, right? Ohio State does not lose in the Orange Bowl in 2013. Ohio State
lose to somebody else instead.
Ohio State does not get shut out in the Fiesta Bowl. Notre Dame does not get shut out in the Cotton Bowl. Sorry,
Ohio State probably still gets shut out in the Fiesta Bowl. That was not a good offense. That was not a good offense.
But in all seriousness, you want to talk about a team that changed the landscape of college football, and that was Clemson in 2010 to 2020. I mean, right now they've kind of fizzled out a little bit, but like it's about recruiting. They were able to beat big time.
A little bit. You played in the Pinstripe Bowl this year.
No, we've lost in the Pinstripe Bowl. Like guys like Trevor Lawrence, Dexter Lawrence, Christian Wilkins. Those guys don't come to little old Clemson. They don't get on the Roy bus. So that changes college football's landscape drastically.
Are you just not getting any recruits at this point? Like you're probably still having a coach.
Right, but we're not. Christian Wilkins is not coming to Clemson if they're not a national championship contender.
Well, no, Christian Wilkins probably is. And Christian Wilkins wouldn't go to Penn State because they wouldn't give him his own room.
Right, but maybe he does. Maybe he decides to go there at that point. So changes a lot of things. Now, this next pick is very, very, very difficult for me. Because I'm between two things.
What if Hunter Renfrow drops the pass?
That would never happen. So you can't talk about hypotheticals that could never happen. What if SMU never got the death penalty?
I had that one on my list too. I was saving that for the last round.
Great one.
What
I
if
was saving that for the last round?
So think about where SMU is paying the ACC and not accepting any TV money to be in the conference right now. That's how much money they have in that program. Could you imagine if SMU wasn't starting with 69 legs behind everybody else in the Power 4 level? They're competing with Texas. I mean, they were a national championship contender team at SMU before the death penalty. So, I mean, I can't even begin to talk about the trickle-down effect. How many Dallas area athletes don't stay in the Dallas area because of that? How many times did Texas win because SMU is not competing against them? Baylor. You know, there's so many different things that could have changed if SMU never gets that death penalty. And I mean, college football as a whole probably runs completely through Texas if that doesn't happen.
So I just looked this up, from when they got the death penalty to 2008, they had, I believe it's 8 seasons where they had 1 or less wins.
Wow.
Prior to that, they went 6-5, but then 10-2, 10-2, 11-0-1, 10-1. Like the previous half decade or so, they were a pretty consistent team. They didn't make a bowl game again until 2009.
Yeah, and you know
the death penalty.
And think about, like, even to today. Right now, they're playing in a stadium that has a capacity of 30,000 people. There's no way on God's green earth that in Dallas, Texas, they would still have a 30,000 capacity stadium for that team if they never got the death penalty. That would be the Coliseum if that were the case. So that changed so much about college football.
SMU would be a significantly bigger brand if they had continued on that trajectory. I mean, you want to talk about winning through the 90s, 80s and 90s. I'm not saying they'd be Nebraska, but like they would probably have a significantly bigger following. They would have a significantly bigger fan base. They'd still be rich because everybody that goes to SMU has a net worth of like $10 million.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know that like the casual fan realize, like people who don't pay attention to college football realizes how wealthy SMU people are. Like there was a kid that I went to high school with that his family was like a big housing developer in Fresno, California, where I went to high school. This kid has the biggest house I have ever seen in my entire life. This thing is like a 5-star hotel. And that is the mean SMU student. Like you talk about like you get your Mark Cuban to buy you a national title, fund your roster. SMU has that in spades. And they're using it just to be in the ACC. If they're not having to use that money just to be in the ACC, how much money right now in 2026 would they have to fund their roster? Incredible to think about.
Well, and think about conference realignment. Does conference realignment happen? Were they in the Big 8?
They were in
the Southwest Conference?
Southwest.
Does the Southwest collapse?
Or are they, when it does, how desirable is SMU at that point?
Yeah.
SMU might be going to the Big 12 in place of somebody else.
Yeah. Or SMU goes ahead and goes to the SEC. And the SEC gets the Texas footprint 40 years early.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people don't realize there's obviously the 30 for 30s out there, but what happened to SMU? I mean, there's a reason why no matter how bad the penalties are, they don't do a death penalty anymore because they saw how much it crippled a program. It was not just a year or two. I mean, it was 20 years again before they went to a bowl game. They had one winning season, I believe, post that, and they went 6-5, which that's barely a winning season. So, I mean, yeah, it absolutely crippled the program, and that's a massive, massive change. I thought I was going to be able to hold on to that one.
Listen, that was a number one overall pick, worthy pick in the third round.
It was. I mean, the value there, was incredible.
I just got Russell Wilson in the third round.
So I'm going to take one here, and I might get Ryan a little fired up on this.
Oh boy.
What if the Bush?
What if
I was going to pick that one next? You suck.
Oh, I thought he was going to say, "What if Mate Te'o's girlfriend was real?"
Yeah, what if she was? They probably still lose that game. But what if the Bush push
still losing that game
is called a penalty? What does that change for that season? Because I mean, we all saw it. We all know what happened.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Jake. That was too far.
Hey,
I would pick it. I had that on deck as my next pick.
I wonder how that changes for rankings because Notre Dame was 6th at the end of the season or 5th at the end of the season.
They probably
a win over USC. They would have been right up there. It would have been interesting because you had Ohio State, Penn State, and I believe Notre Dame. You would have had those three all fighting for it. And Notre Dame would have had a very legitimate shot beating USC. It's hard to say that, hey, you don't have USC in that mix. Most likely would have been Penn State or Notre Dame, and I think Notre Dame probably would have got the tip of the hat because of the win over USC. But then Notre Dame plays against Texas for the national championship game. Obviously, a very different matchup. It's hard for me to say that Texas does not win that game because obviously they beat USC.
Notre Dame was not going to beat Notre Dame defense was so bad they were not beating Texas. If we're being honest with each other,
but when you talk about the long-term effects, what does that do for the program? I mean, Charlie Weiss gets a win over USC.
Yeah,
Charlie Weiss
given him a 50-year contract instead of the 10-year contract that I think they just stopped paying him 2 years ago.
Yeah, Charlie Weiss would be somehow still getting paid for the next 35 years at Notre Dame.
Who is the best player on the 2005 Notre Dame team? There is a right answer because he's still playing in the NFL today. Nope.
Jeff Samardzija.
Nope.
Are you going to say J.J. Jansen?
I'm going to say J.J. Jansen. he's still long snapping today, baby.
17-year pro.
Yep. For my Panthers.
Hey, Brady Quinn's been on TV for the last decade already.
You know who's not? J.J. Jansen, because he's still playing in the NFL.
True.
Jansen, excuse me.
But
Marcus Freeman was on that team.
When you want to talk about legacy, though, of USC,
a Marcus Freeman.
Not the Marcus Freeman.
Not the Marcus Freeman. A Marcus Freeman.
The legacy of that USC team, falls immensely. What does that then do for Reggie Bush's Heisman campaign? Does Vince Young now win the Heisman because he goes undefeated and is playing for the national championship game compared to USC, who is now playing likely in the Rose Bowl? Or no, it would have been playing in one of the Orange Bowl or Fiesta Bowl. Or probably would have played either Penn State or Ohio State in one of the bowl games. What does that look like? Because then all of a sudden, Reggie Bush doesn't win the Heisman. Does USC still have this lore in our minds about being one of the greatest teams of all time? Does that change the Vince Young legacy? Because now all of a sudden it's not Vince Young running it in, with less than a minute left to beat USC in a team that was viewed basically unbeatable.
Yeah, he might have left that year.
No. They would still have played, but Vince Young still would have played against him.
No, I think he would have left. Was that no? He played in. Oh yeah, the national championship was 2005. My bad.
2005.
My bad.
So Vince Young would have beat Notre Dame in the national championship game, which still important, but I don't think also you take away arguably one of the greatest games in college football history.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
No offense, I don't think it's coming down to the wire like that.
No, that Notre Dame team could not keep up with Ohio State in the Fiesta Bowl. They were not keeping up with Texas.
Yeah, who Ohio State coincidentally also lost to at home earlier that year.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right, Ryan, back to you. 2 picks. Final 2 picks, too.
This is one of my favorite what ifs.
No
what
pressure.
if Michigan doesn't fake a COVID outbreak in 2020 and gets the brakes beaten off by Ohio State? Does Jim Harbaugh get fired?
I'll be honest, I was using Twitter for ideas, and I put this out, and a Michigan fan said something, and I said, coincidentally, I didn't even say fakes COVID. That's just, what if they didn't get COVID that year? I mean, Jim Harbaugh had to take a reduced pay and a different contract to basically be able to stay.
Hero.
If they go out and lose, I don't know, 42-14 on their own field, and granted it's a COVID year, but like, does Michigan allow them to stay, or are they saying like, hey, thanks but no thanks, we're done?
Well, I think because that was I don't think it would have been 42-14. I think Ohio State might have actually scored 70 on them, because that Michigan team sucked. They were
so bad.
God awful Michigan team. And that was the Ohio State squad that they got their revenge on Clemson. No one was beating Alabama in 2020. That was a good Alabama team.
Hold on.
Your Clemson team was not beating Alabama that year.
No. 2020?
Yeah. The COVID year.
They couldn't beat Alabama that year.
They got whooped by Ohio State.
Because y'all played 3 games.
Y'all
played 3 games. No injuries.
You still got whooped. You got absolutely whooped by.
Yeah.
The game was over. Yeah. You know what? It was a blowout. Doesn't matter. Hey, in this situation, Michigan they got one more game, because Michigan plays a game against them.
I'm not talking to you right now. I'm angry.
Hey, Trevor Lawrence only played like 6 games that year too.
No, he only missed 2 games.
Again, same point.
But after that game, didn't that spawn or isn't that the offseason after, when you had the Ryan Day, we're going to hang 100 on him? Didn't that happen after 2020, before 2021?
I believe that might have been when he said they were going to hang 100 on him.
So then that never happens, because Harbaugh's probably not there, because he already hung 100 on him, and Michigan's like, well, we can't keep this bozo around anymore. Michigan never beats Ohio State. People don't threaten to kill Ryan Day's family.
Connor Steins never writes his manifesto.
Connor Steins never writes his manifesto. Well, he might have written that already.
He might have written that. That might have been written.
But he's not playing it out at Michigan.
How's Sharon Moore doing in this scenario?
Oh, Sharon's probably not in prison in Washtenaw County right now. I actually think
he might be in a healthy marriage.
He might, or he's in prison in a different county. maybe he goes to Nebraska.
Ugh. Yikes!
Was it a Nebraska alum?
I think it's Oklahoma.
Yeah, he's Oklahoma alum.
Same thing.
They're, if you've driven through both, they're the same thing. Yeah. Michigan never wins, probably back to back Big Ten titles, probably never goes to the playoff, and who knows what they are today.
I wonder who who in theory they would have hired at that time, because also the weird timing, COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Who is making the jump there? Obviously, coming off a terrible year, it's not like the situation is fantastic. Like, you're not looking at a stock cupboard there where you've got everybody under the sun looking for that job.
Mm-hmm.
Like, after this past year, like, they still had to go down the list a little bit before they got to Kyle Whittingham.
Yeah, because you got to think at that point, like, they had just come off of Rich Rod and Brady Hoke, 2 disastrous hires. They brought in Harbaugh, who was supposed to be the savior. If he gets fired at that point, there's never the shine at the end of the tenure. It's just, well, this guy was better, but he still couldn't get them over the top. And if this guy can't get him over the top, who's getting him over the top?
Connor Steins. And Connor Steins becomes the head coach. This is the scenario I want.
Central Michigan never gets caught in the crosshairs with this scandal.
Nope.
And
Alex Grinch is the defensive coordinator at Michigan.
Oh, God.
All right, Ryan, last pick. What you got here?
I don't know if this is good enough to be a top 5, but I feel like I have to play to the base here a little bit. Do you guys remember how the 2014 Florida State Notre Dame game ended? The Corey Robinson OPI on the game-winning touchdown.
Yes.
That OPI does not get called. Notre Dame wins the game. I don't think it changes Notre Dame's season because half their defense got hurt and they lost 6 games.
But Florida State doesn't win the national championship.
Florida State, well, they went. That was the year they lost to Oregon, but
you're right.
Florida State doesn't go to the playoff. The debate over the last playoff spot then comes down to TCU and Baylor. I'm sure you guys remember that fiasco towards the end of that. I don't remember who ended up higher because didn't TCU beat Baylor?
I think TCU ended up higher.
Baylor beat TCU, but Baylor had a worse loss.
Yes,
that's right.
Because
we would have had the original head-to-head debate on that.
Bryce Petty went nuts. But the Bryce Petty Trevon Boykin game, if you ever just want to go watch highlights, that 2014 game, TCU beat Baylor. It's like a 63-60 game or something like that. It is like just shots back and forth constantly.
If you're ever bored in a hotel room, turn on Trevon Boykin highlights.
He was so good. But then you get one of those two teams likely is facing off against Alabama in the first round, so then you never get 85 yards through the heart of the South with Zeke Elliott. They're playing Oregon. They still probably beat Oregon. I feel like Ohio State probably still wins the national title that year, but you get a Big 12 team in the first 12-team playoff. How does that change the fortunes for the conference?
Yeah.
How does that change Jimbo Fisher's fee? I mean, he gets fired anyway. Or whatever.
Left in the middle of the night.
The Big 12, though, how fast do they put their conference championship game back in? Because they basically got left out because they didn't have a conference championship game. That and Ohio State just going nuts against Wisconsin. But they tried to do this one true champion thing, and then they were lobbying for both TCU and Baylor to get in at one point. It's like you can't call yourself one true champion, but hey, we want both of them to get in.
Yeah,
Can we talk about how mismanaged the Pac-12 and the Big 12 have been in the past?
God. Yeah, I feel like there's a what if around if the Pac-12 just doesn't hire idiots to run the conference.
Yeah, what was the dude's name that ended up folding it?
Was it Larry Scott?
Larry Scott.
Yeah, Larry Scott.
Genius, big genius.
So 2014, it's what if OPI is not called in Notre Dame versus FSU?
Maybe then the cosmic gods say Notre Dame's entire starting defense doesn't get hurt and they do something, but probably not. That was the only time I think in my adult life that I went out of my way to not watch Notre Dame play the second half of that season. They were so bad.
RIP Lou Holtz, by the way. RIP Lou Holtz.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's been happening for I think he went into hospice about a month ago, and there's been a couple of false starts with that. You've seen some people posting over the last 2 weeks, like "Rest in peace, coach." I'm like, I don't think he's dead yet, but yeah.
Did you call it a false start?
Yeah.
I would call that a delay game.
Fair enough.
All
yeah.
right.
But yeah, it's been coming. I think most Notre Dame fans who've been still kind of plugged in on message boards have known for the last month or so that this day was kind of on the doorstep. I think you had cancer, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. But
phenomenal coach.
One of the greatest coaches in college football history. There's a lot of great coaches in Notre Dame history. So I mean, I'm not going to say the greatest coach in Notre Dame history, but
he's in the conversation.
In the conversation, all of his former players still speak very, very highly of him to this day.
It's between him and Brian Kelly, right?
100%.
You could not actually just to gas up Lou Holtz just a little bit more. You could not have more polar opposite people.
No.
Like that Lou Holtz is the man.
Just and does one of the best people. Like Brian Kelly?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think it's very, very difficult for me to think of another instance where a coach left a place and then was later fired by another place, and everyone almost universally was like, that guy sucks.
Yeah, I don't know what LSU saw in Brian Kelly and said hey,
we need some
sounds like the right we need some of that down here.
Some Boston clam chowder in the bayou. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Family.
So my final pick here, I'm kind of surprised this one's still on the board, so I'm going to take it. What if Ohio State makes the kick at midnight against Georgia?
That just missed so badly. I didn't even conceptualize it as realistic that he could make it.
It was a very bad kick, but like, what happens if he doesn't have the worst kick of his entire life?
Again, we don't talk about things that are not possible to happen.
Hey, the guy had been a pretty solid kicker overall. That's the crazy part.
No, he really had.
Noah Ruggles was actually a pretty solid kicker his entire tenure, and then chose like the worst possible time to like just not even give it a chance. Like, not even give it a chance. Like, not even like, oh no, like you kicked it and everybody was like, wow, that was so far left. I don't even know what to say. But if Ohio State somehow makes that kick, I want to say, you talk about Ryan Day trajectory, you talk about that with 2020, beating Georgia there. I mean, they're going to do the same thing to TCU. Like, that's pretty clear. Like, they were just going to run through TCU, maybe not 63-7, but like it would have been like 45-14 or like 45-20. Like, it still would have been an Ohio State national championship. Whoever was winning that game was winning the national championship there.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, Ryan Day now has a national championship. Like, what does that look like? Also, I think it actually more negatively affects like last year, because then there's not the pressure to go out and get the Will Howard, to go out and get the Quinshon Judkins, to go out and get those guys, because you had a national championship in recency. Like, I don't think there's the urgency to go out and get the truly best players again. So I honestly think he still probably only has one national championship. I don't think they go on that same run that they did last year. That's just my take. I just don't think he has the fire under him to go out and get those guys. Also, does Michigan then also, I assume Michigan probably wins the national championship the next year, because I think that even lights them under a little bit more, be like, hey, we beat those guys, and then watch them win a national championship. That probably stings pretty hard. But I wonder how that progression changes.
Man, the discourse around that rivalry was already so disgusting last year, with the Michigan fans being like, well, you didn't go undefeated, so it's not the same thing. If they beat Ohio State and then Ohio State won a national title in the same year, I think I might have just deleted my Twitter account and never came back.
That would have been absolutely terrible, because Michigan fans were like, well, you said you had to beat your rival or whatever. I forget which coach said it. Woody Hayes, something like that, said like, in order to win it all, you got to win beat Michigan. It's like, well, they won it all and then lost to Michigan, obviously, before Michigan won it. Like, I think that would have actually hurt Michigan even more, like hurt the Michigan fans being like, are you kidding me? And the way they lost to TCU, obviously, and like all the weird stuff that happened, JJ McCarthy fumbling on the 1 yard line after Roman Wilson maybe was in, maybe wasn't in, just everything. All right, Will, final pick, Mr. Irrelevant here. What you got?
What was your pick?
Ohio State makes a kick versus Georgia.
Oh, yeah. I got a couple, and I'm trying to decide between.
I have a couple here on my list. I want to talk about them afterwards. Ones that undrafted free agents.
There's two I'm really trying to. What if Randy Moss got to go to Notre Dame?
Why did you do that?
What if Randy Moss got to play anywhere but Marshall?
Right. But like he had committed to Notre Dame. He was signed and they denied him because of some off the field issues, and then goes to Florida State, gets kicked out of Florida State, and then obviously ends up at Marshall and still almost winning the Heisman. But like Notre Dame wins the Randy Moss wins the Heisman Trophy if he does that at Notre Dame. Like we can agree to that, right? Randy Moss is probably also looked at as probably one of the greatest college football players of all time, if not the greatest football player of all time, if he goes to Notre Dame. Notre Dame probably wins the national championship sometime during his tenure. I think that changes the entire trajectory of Notre Dame football at that point. I mean, which Notre Dame football was they've never been terrible, right? But that point in time,
there's been some terrible years.
The Tyrone Willingham years were not my favorite time.
I forgot about Tyrone.
I wish I could too.
Think about like This is just like I don't know. If Moss is on that 95 team that went 9-2, they don't lose those 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
They would have beaten Northwestern that year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So I'm
that's Pat Fitzgerald Northwestern. What was that? Pat Fitzgerald Northwestern when he was playing linebacker out there?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, Ron Paulus, the quarterback back then. Maybe he gets drafted higher. I don't know.
Maybe he wins those 2 Heisman trophies that he was supposed to win.
Yeah.
Bino Cook, who said this guy's going to win 2 Heisman trophies. I don't remember.
But I just think that could have changed a lot for Notre Dame. Maybe Notre Dame joins the conference.
No, probably not.
That was my other one.
I think they'd be even further in their independence if they won a national title in the mid-90s.
So can I tell you what I left off my list to put Randy Moss in there? Yeah. What if Reggie Bush didn't pitch it? You know, the fumble in the national championship game.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
What if Maurice Clarett was never suspended?
Mm-hmm. I like that one.
That's a good one.
What if Michigan didn't have trouble with the snap?
Oh. So, fun fact there. If Michigan does not have trouble with the snap, I forget, they were Ohio State was held out of the Big Ten championship game because of that game in 2016. Yep.
So
because of Michigan fumbling the snap, that Penn State went instead because how all the tiebreakers then worked out.
Oh yeah. And then ended up Michigan State playing in the college football playoff and getting just smoked by Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
What if Michael Crabtree's touchdown? Like, what if he went out of bounds? Texas ends up going to the national championship that year. What if Ohio State played 10 games in 2020? What if Notre Dame didn't opt out of the Pop-Tart Bowl?
Maybe they're not playing BYU next year.
And then my last one is, what if Notre Dame joined the conference?
So I have a couple here. What if Marcus Lattimore stayed healthy at South Carolina?
I thought of that one. What if he went to Clemson? He almost went to Clemson.
What if Colt McCoy doesn't get injured at the very beginning against Alabama in the national championship game?
I had that one too.
What if JT Barrett is ruled short in 2016 against
That's
that one I think has some long-term effects there. What if Urban Meyer takes the Penn State job like he was long rumored to be taking after Joe Paterno? And then what if Alabama does not get their 1 second when Nick Saban lobbied for it on the kick 6?
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
And then they go to overtime instead. We don't get the kick 6. Auburn might still win, but, I mean, you don't get the kick 6 in arguably one of the greatest plays of all time.
What if Johnny Manziel went to Oregon?
Ooh.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. The only other one that I had that we have not previously touched on is what if Georgia does not run out of time at the end of the 2012 SEC title game?
Oh, was that Aaron Murray? No.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think they got down to 5.
Yep.
They probably win the national title that year. And that changes the entire conversation around Mark Richt.
There's a trend here. There's a couple programs that have a lot in here just because of either something that happened good for them that, like, hey, if it goes the wrong way, it probably doesn't happen. Or, hey, if a couple of these things change, you might have won an additional like 2 or 3 national championships. And all of a sudden your program is like seriously elevated with all of these. But
that was fun.
This is a good draft board here. I'm curious what people are going to pick and what people are going to say about some of these because there's some good ones on here. There's definitely some good ones and ones that I didn't even think about before we started.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Ryan, I really appreciate you joining us today. I'm going to give you floor. Let everybody tell where to go find all your stuff, all your content.
Oh, brother. Well, thank you guys for having me. This was a big bucket list item for me. I like your guys' work. It's an honor to be here with you guys today. You guys can follow us on Twitter at Inside the Pylon. That is at ITPCFB. If you're watching the video here, the handle is right there. That is the best place to find all of our content. We will tweet out all of our links there. You can subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your shows. We are rolling through our Big Ten spring previews right now. Just a little kind of look-see at each of the 18 programs in the Big Ten, 3 things that we are looking out for, just kind of an appetizer until we get into our summer previews when we talk to our goal. We've done it 2 years in a row. a beat writer for every team in the Big Ten to come on and help us preview teams. It is better for us. It helps us learn a little bit and hopefully a little bit more informative for everyone. So good appetizer. Hopefully people like it. We're doing 50. We're trying to keep Clinton and I talk a lot and we're not good at keeping episodes short. We did Indiana in Illinois. We're just kind of going alphabetically and we kept them both to about 15 minutes. We're trying to keep them a little shorter in the spring just because I don't know about you guys. I'm not super plugged in with football right now. I'm just trying to unwind a little bit. I've taken up woodworking in the off season.
Oh, nice.
Everybody's got an off season hobby.
I needed to find an off season hobby because I really got into the weeds with football season this past year. I'm like, what the hell am I going to do in the off season? So I learned to make tables. I got a table saw for Christmas. Then I spent a bunch of money on power tools I haven't figured out how to use yet, but it's been a process. I haven't lost a finger yet. We're doing good.
That's a positive. That's a positive.
All my digits. We've got to keep those.
Well, Ryan, really appreciate having you on today.
Yeah, for sure.
Great. If you're not doing so already, make sure to follow him. Go follow us, walkonredshirts.com, Walk on Red Shirts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, anywhere you get your social media content. Subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you get any sort of your video or audio content. Leave a 5-star comment if you like that. If you don't, leave 4-star, 3-star. I don't really care what you leave.
Leave something. Just leave something.
Just leave something. Helps us out. With that being said, we'll see you guys again next week. And Ryan, thank you again so much.
Yeah, see you, Ryan.